Welcome back to Who's Number One, presented by Saucony. It's a whole new cross-country season, so we're giving the show a whole new look. Each week, we're going to come back and take a really specific look at Foot Locker and NXN regionals, because right now that's the most important thing to teams around the country. We're going to take a deep dive into one region and tell you why it has super important national implications. First off, we're going to get into the speed round. Every week, we're going to hit you with the best speed-rated performances that happened over the last weekend. I'm not going to try to explain it because I'll still be here next year in 2017. If you want to see more information, you can check it out below in the article. First, California just started their season already. Michael Versaw ran a 192. To put that into perspective, at California State Meet last year, overall he would have been 7th. 192, and that's even more important because 9 of the top 10 guys from California last year, they're gone. Michael Versaw makes an early statement as a top dog in that state. We jump across the East Coast. Another one of your top returners from last year, DJ Principe from the depleted LaSalle squad. They lost a couple of their guys, but he's back. He runs a 191 rated performance, which almost equals his 192 that he ran at NXN last year. So the LaSalle guy comes in his senior year at the same fitness level he was at the national championship last season. So he's a guy you have to watch coming out of the small state of Rhode Island. And then, of course, we got to wrap up with the girls. Kelsey Schmiel, Saratoga Springs, always known for its team powerhouse, but all of a sudden they have one of the best girls in the country. 151 in August. In Virginia, there were only a handful of girls in the entire 2015 season who ran over 150. And she's already done that in August. Saratoga Springs just got that much more deadly. If you want to find a way to beat FM and take them down, you need to have a quality low stick at NXN, and Kelsey Schmiel is that girl. All right, that's your speed-rated speed round for this week. It's time for our deep dive. We're going to take a look at NXN Southwest. What's the deal with NXN Southwest? Why is it so important? Maybe because they sent 7 teams to NXN last year. 7. 4 on the boys' side. And remember, the team that finished 4th, you may have heard of them, American Fork, ended up on the NXN podium. This is an incredibly deep region. At NXN last year, 33% of your top 12 teams on the boys' side came from the Southwest region. So not just sending 2 wildcard teams, they're sending wildcard teams that are placing highly at a national championship. Already this season, we had a lot of really big movement, and to really break it down and tell you what's going on and everything this means, not just for the Southwest teams, but all the teams around the country, we're going to bring in our expert guest this week, Alan Versaw. He's the senior editor of Colorado MileSplit, and he keeps updated weekly NXN Southwest subjective rankings. So we're going to bring him in and get his thoughts on everything that's happening so far at NXN Southwest. Of course, I have to ask you straight off the bat about American Fork, because they're the U.S. number 1 team right now. They have a defending national champion, but you're not even sold on them in the Southwest region. Why?
Well, as you know, it's a very, very tough region, and there's probably nobody in the nation as good as American Fork at 1 through 3. But when you get in a big meet, and this isn't so much true at Nike Cross Nationals, but it's definitely true at the regional meet. Those 4 and 5 are super, super important. And I still think American Fork's the best team in the region, but I think they're vulnerable. And it's because of that 4 and 5. The 4 and the 5, those guys have got to come along if the American Fork season's going to be what they're dreaming it's going to be.
Specialties, Colorado. What have you seen so far in the early season on the boys' side?
Mountain Vista's kind of been playing hide and seek at this point. They've run some of their full-time varsity guys. They haven't run them all yet. I expect to see them this weekend at the St. Vrain. I think we'll see the full Mountain Vista team. We'll get a clearer picture of how good they are. Last week, Monarch just blew some socks off of people at Centaurus. They ran a very strong meet. 5 guys, I forget, it was no worse than top 14, all 5 guys at a large meet, 28 schools. So Monarch is suddenly very much on the radar screen for Colorado. And Rock Canyon has also been showing very well. So right now, those 3 teams are pretty clearly bubbling to the surface for Colorado.
At the national level, people may be more familiar with Mountain Vista after last year, but you mentioned Monarch. Are they a contender for either an auto or wild card spot?
Wild card, yes. Auto, man, those are hard to come by in the Southwest region. I don't think they've shown that yet, but maybe it's coming.
From the rest of the Southwest region, some potential contenders, things that maybe surprise you so far?
To New Mexico, Hobbs obviously won the state meet last year. They were a kind of a middle of the pack team at Nike Southwest last fall. They brought a lot of guys back. Still haven't really seen a lot on them this year. They ran this past weekend. I wasn't able to find results. Obviously, they're a good team. We don't know how good yet. Albuquerque Academy, historically, they're a pretty important team in Nike Cross Nationals. They seem to be getting a little better again. They've always been a good team, but they seem to be approaching that level where you can think about them as potentially a qualifying team. They dominated the UNM Lobo this last weekend. So certainly things are looking up for Adam Kedge's group. Going to Arizona, Desert Vista the boys, not the girls, went to the Cool Breeze Invitational in California this last weekend. They finished fourth, which doesn't sound like much until you realize the teams in front of them are Claremont, Brea Linda, and Arcadia. And so, they had the travel, and they had certainly a decent showing. So we've got to look at Desert Vista as a potential contending team this fall. Right now, I'm not seeing anything out of Nevada. They'll probably get a team or two into the regional championship race, but right now I'm not seeing a potential national qualifier there.
Of course, Utah certainly stands out as the powerhouse in the region. I think especially on the boys' side, once we get past American Fork, if you had to pick another 2 or 3 teams, what are the first ones that come to your mind?
Timpanogos is looking really, really good this year. Timpanogos, this may be the year that Timpanogos gets clearly by Davis. I don't know. And there's certainly other teams in Utah. I think those are the big 3, and they've been the big 3 for a couple of years now. But Desert Hills always has to be accounted for. Pineview has to be accounted for. Olympus has run well this year. There's just a very, very nice density of really good teams in Utah. Springville's another one we've got to start looking at.
On the girls' side, we doesn't seem like we have that same distinction, and it's a little bit more fluid with the teams you have there. What are your senses after the early season races on the outlook for the NXN Southwest region girls teams?
Certainly American Fork and Davis are very, very good teams. Davis just barely made it in last year. American Fork's a good team, but kind of like the boys, I'm not seeing yet the level of domination from the American Fork girls that we saw last year. So, as you said, maybe things are a little more fluid this year. In Colorado, we've got 2 very, very good teams in Broomfield and Mountain Vista. Like the boys, the Mountain Vista girls haven't put the whole package together yet this year. We might see that this weekend at the St. Vrain Invitational. And if we do, we'll know a whole lot better just how good Mountain Vista is. But they're certainly good. The only question is how good. I think Mountain Vista and Broomfield stand above all the other teams in Colorado right now. Air Academy is certainly looking very good. They're probably the 3rd team in Colorado. If we go down to New Mexico, right now Rio Rancho is the best team in New Mexico. And we get a little bonus this weekend because Rio Rancho is making the trip up to the St. Vrain Invitational. So we'll get to see them against at least Mountain Vista. Now, Broomfield's going to Liberty Bell, so we won't get that matchup. But we will see how Rio Rancho fares against Mountain Vista, and that'll tell us a lot. Down in Arizona, Desert Vista is your default best team. We haven't seen their top girls race yet this year, but it's a safe bet. They're going to be very good. If you do a meet merge out of the Chandler Invitational from this past weekend, first meet of the season, I don't know what it means exactly, but Highland, who has always been kind of on the edge of being a top team in Arizona, actually came out ahead of Chandler. And Chandler was last year's Division I champions in Arizona. So maybe Highlands has the goods this year, and maybe they're the surprise team in Arizona. They're certainly worth looking at. Nobody's closing the books on Chandler yet. Certainly they're a good team. They're still to be reckoned with. If we go to Nevada, Centennial out of the Las Vegas area is the best team. Hopefully, we'll get to see them against some competition other than just Nevada schools, and we'll get a better idea of just how good Centennial is this year. So, I think those are kind of your top teams around the region.
And lastly, every week, I'm going to put my guess on the spot. And if we ran NXN Southwest today, without any explanation or justification, name 2 boys teams, 2 girls teams that move on.
Oh boy! Wow, wow. I'll tell you what, boys teams. I think it comes down to 3. I don't know that I can name 2 right now, but I think it comes down to American Fork, Mountain Vista, and Timpanogos. And Timpanogos is a little surprising that they're as good as they are this early. And they may end up being the top team in the whole region, as good as they're looking early. But they started early, they started strong. The question with them is, can they carry it through to November? Girls' side, oh, it doesn't get any easier. I'd sure like to see Desert Vista see some results there before I pick them. They're certainly in it. American Fork is certainly in it. I think Davis is in it. I think Broomfield, I think Mountain Vista are both in it. Broomfield looked very good at Centaurus last weekend. Mountain Vista, we haven't seen the whole package yet. Boy, if you ask me to pick 2, wow. I'm going to go with American Fork and Mountain Vista, but I'm not real sure of that.
Thanks again to Alan for taking some time to talk. Really great points on NXN Southwest and what it means now for the rest of the country with the big impacts the early season races have seen. And now, of course, my biggest takeaway is American Fork. They're your U.S. #1 team on the boys' end. But to his points, they might not even make it out of the Southwest region. Casey Klinger may have to go to Foot Locker as an individual or NXN as an individual because his team is not built for the Southwest region. They're built for NXN and National Championship. They have the best top 3 in the entire country. That's important for them at that level, but if they can't make it there, it doesn't matter. Their lack of depth in their 4th and 5th runners is going to kill them in the Southwest region in the size of that race. The field is so much larger that hurts them, and those top 3 don't have as big of an impact as they will NXN in the smaller field. So this is going to be extremely important to monitor throughout the season. And American Fork's season and their chance to go to NXN, back up their 2nd place finish last year, is going to depend heavily on their 4th and 5th runners being able to develop, show some improvement, and be ready to execute in one of the deepest regions, team-wise, in the entire country. That is who's #1.